My dad and I attended Becknology Days for the first time this year, and I am just so glad that we went. We have been Beck's customers for years, but we've never attended this show. You don't have to be a Beck's customer or even a farmer to attend, and we had a really, really good time. So we're just going to do a quick little recap of what we did when we were there. For the first time this year, Beck's had a media preview day, which meant that I got to go a day early and I was able to take some videos without lots of crowds there, and we were able to see some of the main presentations that were going to be given the following days. First, we went out to the test plots and saw some of the trials that they are highlighting this year with their PFR research.
It's going to be 3 to 5 locations, rep 3 to 5 times, and as we go through the talk, you might hear us talk about PFR proven. What that means is that a product or practice has been tested at a minimum of 3 years, and of those 3 years it gave us a positive yield gain each and every year, and then averaged a positive ROI. So as we go through there, that's what PFR proven is. But as you can see, looking at some differences in no-till versus conventional till.
I believe this is the longest standing no-till, continuous no-till study in the state of Indiana. So Sonny's pretty proud of that, and we're pretty proud of the data we've got.
University research as well suggests that it takes 4, 5, 6 years to see the benefits of that no-till there, and I would argue that we kind of see that here at the beginning, and we start to see no-till kind of creep up. But it seems like ever so often they may switch, right? Looking at our soybeans, we're about 0.3 bushel. I think there could be a lot of different factors when it comes into that. One, no-till soybeans getting up out of the ground evenly, right? I think that's part of it, but also I'll kind of let Luke talk about this carbon factor when it comes to soybeans.
At first glance, I thought, well, you know what? There's a 10 bushel, but it's really maybe an optical conclusion. Caught that, didn't you? Optical conclusion. But anyway, I thought, well, the differential, the percentage isn't probably that different until I ran the math. The drop off from no-till to conventionals, about a 5%, it's actually 4.7% differential, versus over here, it's only a 0.5%. Any thoughts to why that is? That 0.5%, moral of the story is, beans are paying the price for all that residue that we're not decomposing. We're spraying fungicides, we're not tilling it, we're using lots more traits. Reality is we're paying what we call the penalty, or what's called the carbon penalty. Tillage is coming closer on that soybean because ultimately we're just starting that process quicker of decomposing all that residue. If you don't want to go back to tilling every ground and having the exposure like Christian kind of mentioned, with the potential for more erosion and poor water infiltration, I would encourage you to think about looking at one of our nitrogen studies. I think it's Tour 7.
Next up, they talked about drones and fungicide application, which I was very invested in since I did my own spraying with a drone this season.
You know, especially these newer fungicides like Veltima and Mirvis Neo and so forth, they've got compounds that extend the life. They also are a broader spectrum when it comes to disease suppression. We know if we're applying it ourselves, 15, 20 gallon the acre provided us, at least here at PFR, with a ground rig at the optimal return. And you can see on the lower right, growth stage is important, even applying it early morning. Maybe flip that next one, would you?
On the left is the coverage done by a sprayer, and on the right, it is done with a drone. Now, looking at these, you might think, oh, with the ground rig, you're getting much better application, but you're getting a much more potent application with the drone.
7% versus 1, and like Christian said, it's with a nozzle drone. But I think one thing we got to keep in mind, and I think he kind of already spilled the beans there to his left or to his right from your angle, you see the drone actually paid better is at 20 gallon the acre, we have to remember, or better yet said, at 2 gallon the acre, these droplets are 10 times more concentrated too. So there might be, not necessarily less of them, but they consume a lot lower percentage of that leaf. Christian's kind of demonstrate, believe it or not, you're probably saying, well, shooting his left hand, that's clear water. No. That's the same percentage of food coloring that we would see in a ground rig as we would see in a
2 years on corn, $4.84 with the ground rig return on investment, and $14.75 with the drone. Another thing I want to point out is what's one thing we have that we don't have here that you have? That's end rows, right? Our end rows are 40, 45 foot grass mowed alleyways. We get really good airflow through that canopy, right? So what I would say is if we see a response out of fungicide here, you're definitely going to see it on your farm. We do try to mitigate that a little bit, right? Increase our inoculum by using practices such as corn on corn to try to increase that, put the fungicide trials on corn after corn to mimic maybe the disease pressure that you're going to see on your farm. But again, drone comes out on top here in the multi-location data.
Now keep in mind, when you look at any data, whether it's this slide, anything throughout the entire day or the PFR book, to Christian's point, we do not have application costs in it.
One reason that they believe that the drone is outperforming ground rigs, helicopters, airplanes is the way that it pushes the product into the leaves. It really ruffles it up and really pushes that product down into the canopy. They also want us to focus on the pH level of the water inside of the drone since it's such a concentrated application. But on to the next portion of the tour. So we're getting off of a track. The next portion of the tour was about equipment innovation. So it was only right to get off a manually driven tractor and have this robot haul us to our next location. Now, I would say this presentation more focused on where the future of farming is going and not what we're readily going to see in the fields this year. We heard from a guy named Andrew, who is the CEO of Swarm Farm Robotics, and then a guy named Chad, who is the director of digital agronomy with Verdant Robotics. What I liked about both of these speakers were that they are focusing on how can we make farming more efficient, how can we use less chemicals, and how can we get more done in the field without just making larger, more expensive equipment.
This is literally taking military and aerospace aiming technology and bringing it to agriculture. All the guys that I joined at Verdant are all former military, aerospace, and NASA engineers that have brought what they learned about landing modules on Mars and developing like the F-35 targeting system into agriculture.
Here they're demoing how they can just spray the weeds and they are not spraying the crop. Now, they are just spraying the weeds with water to demonstrate right here.
Spray the rocks. Yeah. That's crazy. But you still see how much water travel around here. Well, that one, yeah. And that's in the little balls. That's not perfect. Okay. And so that's what...
Next, we learned more about the Beck family, and Sonny showed us the tractor that he first learned to drive on.
When you're cranking it, if it kind of backfires on you, you take your thumb out. And so you have to learn to keep your thumb inside instead of putting your thumb around that handle. Listen to other people.
The story is that Sonny's father would actually spend his nights sleeping on a cot in the seat house. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, and if it was nice and warm, that was great. He'd just roll back over and go to sleep. But if he woke up and it was kind of chilly, then he'd have to get up and throw some more coal in the stove to get the heat belt back up, because that was before the day of the fan. So just the radiant heat was how they would drive. And once the seed corn harvest was finished, once all the seed corn was dried and it was time to begin processing it, they would begin by running it through a hand crank ear corn sheller, as you see over here. So right here, this family of four, that little blonde-headed boy was sitting on the tractor a few minutes ago. And he'll turn 85 later on this year. These three words are really what I focus on because they represent three areas of the business that have had a huge part to play in our success.
We are in the lovely state of Indiana. What are we doing today, Dad?
We're going to Becknology Days.
Woohoo! Yesterday we went to the media preview. I will show you that first. And then today I'm speaking on 2 panels and we're gonna enjoy the show for the first time. I've never attended it.
Nope, I haven't been here either.
When you pull into Becknology Days, they tell you exactly where to park and then they pick you up on a golf cart and drive you into the show. So if you have limited mobility, there are definitely ways to get around. My seed dealer, Tina, sells seed along with her brother, Doug, and we met up with Doug for donuts first. We're having donuts with our seed dealer. Throughout the 3-day-long event, they are giving tons of riding tours of the plots and presenting on all of their research. Also, they provide a free lunch, and I could not believe how efficiently this went.
I started on TikTok in June of 2021. When I came back to the farm, I was hanging out with my dad and people who were 40 to 50 years older than me every single day. And it was kind of isolating. They were in that like 3rd section of their career where they were kind of winding down. They already knew everything. They've been doing it for years. And I was just starting out and it was like, man, I don't know anything. I feel kind of just isolated and alone. But I have a friend who was posting on teacher TikTok about what he was doing in his classroom during COVID. And he was like, Zoe, I think you should be posting about farming. You're a girl and you're in tractors, and I think people would find that really interesting. And at that time, I knew who the millennial farmer was, because whenever I would like YouTube how to fix something, his videos would be like the video that would pop up next. So I knew there were some people doing it. And it wasn't until I started posting that I realized like there are tons and tons of farmers online, and I built really great connections with other people who were like really in that same spot as me. One of the first women I started following was Erin Volbert, and I think she's a Beck's customer who's going to be here today, but she was the first person where I looked at her page and I was like, we are living the same life. We were both farming with our dads, and it just, I really connected with her there. Just by watching her and just seeing what she was doing, and it was really cool. And so I slowly built a community with other farmers, and then I was able to jump on. I was on TikTok for a full year before I started posting anywhere else, because I was like, God forbid my friends and family see that I'm posting on Instagram. I don't want them to think that I'm an influencer or something. But I was speaking to someone who was doing content creation full time, and she said, you have to get on all of these platforms because you are building on rented land, which I also farm on a lot of rented land. So, you know, you're building your business not on a place you own. You need to diversify and be everywhere. And so that's how I kind of just slowly got on all those different platforms, and then all of my platforms are really different, whereas like TikTok, I find it's a lot of other farmers. Whereas on Instagram, it's more people who just have a more distant connection to ag. It's my grandfather farmed, my great-grandfather farmed, and they're like, it's so great seeing a farm today, because I still feel that like sense of connection. So it's been really fun, just growing and connecting with people online.
You mentioned the term influencer in a negative connotation. I think especially in this industry, that term can have a negative connotation. What does being an influencer mean to you or not mean to you in what you guys do? We'll start over here so Rob can't take the good answer as always first.
Good, I get to start off in the beginning. Yeah, I think we get that negative connotation just because, you know, there's a ton of people shilling the latest and greatest water bottle, the new makeup, all, you know, different things, and I never want to identify as an influencer, because it's like, who am I? What do I have? What should I be telling people? You know, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning every single day. So I get nervous, I guess, when I'm posting online, because I don't want people to think that I know. I don't know. It's like, I don't want to portray that I should tell you what you should do. And so I think that influencer, you know, I'm telling you what you should be buying, what you should be using, stuff like that. Whereas like really like everyone has influence. You influence your kids, you influence the guy that you sit in pew with at church, you know, everyone has that influence, but for whatever reason, I think that just that connotation's been kind of spun a little bit negative, just because it's used when people are like shilling a product.
Doing larger things. And when I was in high school, he let me run the combine. And my senior year, we had a senior project, and my project was, do I want to return to the farm? And so I learned how to do the bookwork. I worked like a certain number of hours, and then my final conclusion was like, yes, I do want to farm. And luckily, it was 2013. That was a good year for the commodities, and I got my eyes on the books and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And my dad's very lucky that that was a good year, because wow, it's a little bit less fun now.
Is that what accelerated his decision to leave the farm?
No. So basically, my dad has always thought it is better to transition while he's still here with me, because you can learn a ton from watching someone make a decision. But even when we were partners, someone has to be that 51%, and I was that 49%, and just being in the chair making the decisions myself is just, it really is a whole new ball game. And being able to bounce ideas off of him and have him mentor me while I'm in that role has been just really, really fun, really exciting. And I kind of always knew that when I came back to the farm, there was a spot for me, and
were always laying that groundwork of how we would transition, so I could see where I was going to fit in.
I think it's worth acknowledging. It's pretty special that your dad believed in you. You know, you had a desire, but he was the one that said, I'm willing to give you an opportunity to make this go.
Yeah, the issue with my parents is that they are too supportive. They think that everything I do is amazing. So I don't get the feedback I'm looking for, and that's why I'm online, so everyone can tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Overall, I was really impressed with the show, and I think if you ever have the opportunity to go, you should.